Hello, this is a video response to be serious with reference to the video that she made about the collapse of civilization and adaptive strategies. First of all, there's a book that I think is quite informative about this by an economist who works for the United Nations at this time, and there we go, if you can see it. Sorry about the lighting here at the moment. Jeffrey Sachs, Commonwealth, and it's called Economics for a Crowded Planet. Quite a lot of interesting information in there, and the book's only been out a month or so. Okay, a couple of things I'd like to say. It's a bit late in the evening, so I'm a bit tired, but we'll do the best we can. Education. Two areas there. One is for us, the general public, and one for the leadership, politicians, etc. As for ourselves, we tend to do what we have to do to survive, and probably appreciate relaxation time, and don't necessarily want to get too heavily involved with thinking about a lot of other things. Which is a shame, because there is a requirement, I think, for us to take some time out and read up about what's going on as we are pushing up against limits in both energy supply, food supplies, water supply, etc. And the first instances of this obviously is the soaring prices that we're seeing. And that's starting to make people think a bit. So maybe a bit of self-education would be useful, so that you know, within reason, you have some ideas of what you're talking about, and that puts you in a better position if you do tackle and question our leadership as to what the strategies are going to be. Example, the amount of energy that we use on a daily basis for, well, worldwide, for instance, if we measure that in times of the amount of global, or should I say amount of solar radiation that hits the globe, there's about 6,000 times more solar radiation energy hitting the globe than there is that we actually use to produce things during the working day. So solar thermal plants, probably placed around desert areas on the planet, would be very useful at generating energy for ourselves without the offshoot of CO2. And while the solar radiation coming down is free, the power plants would cost money to build, but while we might spend some billions on that, without this we may well end up spending trillions later on to solve these problems. Other things, such as there were going to be several prototype power stations, fossil burning, both in the UK and the USA, that would capture all the CO2 that they produced. But those projects have been cancelled, which is rather a shame. What are we doing? The proposed Thames estuary in the UK, the wind farm, has also been cancelled. So again, one wonders, what are we doing? But these items, if we get educated as a general public, we can put to, certainly in the UK, the leadership, the MPs. We can email, write to them, ask them about this sort of technology, about what their plans are, what strategies they would have, what the time frames are, what the budget would be. And if we talk about money, I mean, the total world economy is about $40 trillion, which is a huge sum. If we took 1% of that, we're talking about $400 million, or should I say $400 billion, about 1%. And if we took 1/10 of that, we've got $40 billion. And the amount of money spent worldwide on renewables, research into energy, etc., is well short of that 1/10 figure. So global change is not something that would break the bank, and it's going to be much more costly to do nothing than to do something. So I would advise people to get educated in some areas of what's going on. Contact your MPs locally, write to them and ask the relevant questions that I've mentioned earlier, and anything else you can think of that may be of use, and put them to the test. Let them see that, for one thing, there could be some votes in this which may spur things on. We do get mixed messages. We see that there's possibly green taxes on fuel coming along. They've been postponed at the moment, but there may well be some changes in the taxation with a green flavour to it. But we're never quite sure what that's going to be spent on. Certainly not these projects I've mentioned, because they've been cancelled. One thing that we are doing in the UK, and that's going to spend £4 billion on a couple of aircraft carriers. Really useful. So I think there's real questions to be asked, and trying to get things moving in that area. Other points to mention, I think, in America, I believe, according to Jeffrey Sachs, they spent about $3 million last year on researching into alternative energy, whereas they actually spend $1.1 million every minute of the day on military activities. So it shows you the disproportionate spending that's going on items that are really not going to see us very far. The old regimes of grab the resources wherever they happen to be and scramble for them in competition with others, and that's been going on for 200 odd years. Certainly the British Empire did all that, and we had a big fleet and a navy to protect our interest as we took what we needed. But the whole world now is scrabbling around for limited resources, and that is not sustainable, and it will come to a dramatic end, unfortunately. So there needs to be cooperation. Very difficult, but there needs to be a realisation that we need to cooperate and look at new technologies, put the money in where necessary, develop systems that work, and then roll them out across the globe. And if there's competition between nations, competition to see who can develop these strategies and these technologies first. But there you are. I think I've said about as much as I can think of saying. George Olah is an eminent scientist, and he's written a book called Beyond Oil and Gas, and has some very interesting concepts of CO2 capture. But again, it's about convincing the politicians who allocate the money to these projects. Okay, talk again soon. Bye bye.